Why is honesty important? Like honesty as a value. Like to be an honest person, to have integrity, to mean what you say, to be transparent with people about your intentions, to keep your word. Events in the news have made me think about this more lately. And that brought me back to the 1980s and a man named Václav Havel. Havel was a Soviet dissident. He lived in Czechoslovakia under Soviet rule. And the Soviet Union at the time was best compared to the way China is today. You couldn't have a different opinion from the official opinion the government wanted you to have. You had to support the Communist Party. You couldn't write or speak or in any way show dissent from the Communist Party. Havel, who was a poet and a playwright, really didn't buy into this. He spoke against the Communist Party, and for his sins he spent years in jail. But ultimately, when his Czechoslovakia gained independence from the Soviet Union, he became their first president. During his time under Soviet rule, Havel wrote the story of the green grocer. The grocer gets his government-rationed allocation of groceries to sell on the shelf. That was how a command economy worked. Shout out to economics students who know what I'm talking about. And in his shipment of groceries, there was included a party poster supporting the Communist Party that he was meant to hang in the window of his shop. Now, the greengrocer didn't support the Communist Party. He didn't believe that the Soviet Union represented the interests of workers all around the world, but he hung the poster up anyway. It was a lie. But Havel says it's a small lie, and it's a lie that basically indicates, I'll tell this lie for you if you just leave me in peace. You're not going to come ransack my store or fine me or throw me in jail. I just want to live in peace, and so I'll tell this small lie by hanging this poster that misrepresents everything that I believe in. And Havel says, what's the problem with that? Now, I understand this question. I ask my kids all the time to tell me the truth, like, did you go into the treat cabinet? But if I think about it from their perspective, there are two answers they can give me. The truth is, yes, they went into the treat cabinet. But a yes means that I give them a talking to, I sit down, I explain to them why they have to ask for treats, etc., etc. If they say no to me, I'm like, all right, carry on. The lie, especially the small lies, are often much easier. From a really early age, we understand that. So what's the problem? Telling small lies shouldn't be such a big deal. Havel disagreed with this. Small lies, he said, beget big lies. The problem is, once we get used to telling small lies, we become used to hearing small lies. And when we become used to hearing small lies, we become used to hearing big lies. Honesty is a slippery slope. Think about it this way. You tell a small lie, and then you hear a small lie, and you're like, I know that's not true, but you know what? I'm not really such an honest person myself, so I'm going to let that go. I'm not really going to react to it. And now you've already moved yourself into a place, into a world of dishonesty, into a world where you don't keep your word and you don't expect others to keep their word. This is why the greengrocer needed to resist, because as soon as he hung that poster up, he said to the state, you can have my thoughts. You can have my integrity. You can make me say something that I don't believe in. Now, there's a common refrain in the Torah called mita keneged mita. This is a theme that weaves itself throughout Tanakh, where the different characters in Tanakh do something, and then their actions, their moral actions, come back in the future to haunt them or to revisit them. Yaakov Avinu, who has a special connection to Sukkot, he is building Sukkot, after all, a number of times in the Torah, is probably one of the most famous examples of mita keneged mita. As you remember, Yaakov is less than honest with his father Yitzchak when he dresses up as Esav in order to get the bracha for the Bechorah, which was rightly his, but he wasn't so honest about it. Fast forward a few years later, Yaakov's with Lavan, and Lavan is not so honest with Yaakov when he does the switcheroo between Rachel and Leah. The Medrash picks up on this and says, hey, mita keneged mita. It's as if Lavan said to Yaakov, we care about birth orders in this family. Leah's first, so you'll marry her first. I think Havel's insight helps explain mita keneged mita in the case of Yaakov. Yaakov was okay with dishonesty in the moment he presented himself falsely to Yitzchak. Yaakov essentially was saying, I'm okay telling a small lie because in the greater good this was the right thing to do. But what Yaakov didn't realize, he opened himself up to the mita of dishonesty because he had accepted dishonesty in his life. This is a big challenge for you guys. Like, your generation has so much information being thrown its way. It's so hard to tell what's true and what's not true. But I think Havel's insight gives us a mechanism for approaching all this information. And it's not doing research and analyzing everything we hear and making sure it's empirically true. It's much simpler. It's just being an honest person. When you're a person of integrity, when you're a person who means what you say, when you're a person who follows through on your word, you will recognize falsehood in others. You will recognize when others aren't being honest with you. You will demand truth because you live by truth. Chag Sameach.